Okay, so, hi, we have Hillary Mason here.
Hello.
We are at ScienceOnline Teen. Things are very busy outside the door, but we're going to do a hangout here for everyone who couldn't show up today in New York City. And so, without further ado, I guess let's start with how did you get started in all of your tech stuff? And also a little bit of background about sort of what you're doing and what you think you might be doing down the road.
Well, that's a big question, and I know we don't have that much time, so I'll keep it brief. So for people who don't know me, my name's Hillary. I'm a computer scientist. I work at a company called Bitly, where we study social behavior online, and we build products that make it easier, like short URLs. And we study what happens when people share millions of links on the internet. And so my background, I actually was interested in computers from the time I was a really little kid. I'm dyslexic, and so using computers made it much easier for me to write. And I'm also the kind of person who takes things apart. So
Gotcha.
I learned to program pretty early and just fell completely in love with it.
Awesome.
And I expect I'll be doing more of that.
Okay. So I guess what was your experience as like a teen, and the sort of support that you got, and sort of what advice do you have for other teens who are trying to find sort of what they're interested in, and especially in like this tech space, which can be sort of a little far away, especially since it's not taught very well in schools. How do you find that?
So when I was a teenager, I was on the internet, and I was pretty lucky to have access to it. I'm old enough that not everybody did at that point, and certainly in school it was sort of a new thing that that really wasn't integrated at all into how people worked or taught. And so my advice for people today who are interested in pursuing technology is that all the resources you need are there. What you can't get from the internet and what you can't get from your teachers is an idea of what you want to do with it. And so I would really encourage people to try it. Try to build something. Don't think about it as learning to program. Programming by itself is kind of frustrating. It's like if you said, I want to become a world expert in like using a hammer, right? That's not the point. The point is to actually use that hammer to build something.
Okay.
Oh, hello. There's
yes,
someone
a
there.
person.
And so try to decide on a project that you're excited about, and learn what you need to learn to do that, and find the people online who are able to support you in that. And that's pretty generic advice, but it works pretty well. And I can give examples from my own work where like I like to build totally absurd bits of technology in my spare time. One site I made is called Book Goose, and it takes Amazon's catalog and just randomizes it. So there's no way to navigate. You can't tell it I like mystery books. You can just get random books from the internet.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's a dumb thing, but it's a really dumb thing.
Can everyone hear us okay? Is everything good on that end? Okay.
Hello.
Awesome. And if you guys have questions at any point, as Hillary Mason here, you can type them in the chat bar and get started that way.
We're a little bit late. Can you remind us who Hillary Mason is? I know she looks awesome, and I think she was the keynote,
right? Difficulty hearing?
We can't hear you, but if you type it in the group chat. Oh, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. We're having problems with our network. They made some changes at the school, and so I'm accessing you guys on my phone. And I've got students around me, so we're ready to talk. But remind us, I know, Hillary, weren't you the keynote?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us what we're talking about today, because we missed the keynote.
Sure. So what I was talking about in the keynote was how science in the last 300 years is different from science in the next 50 years, how technology has made that possible, and then some of the really fun things that I've learned from my work, which falls scientifically under the umbrella of computational social science, but is a new way to study human behavior. And then a lot of like, science is really fun. Which doesn't come through when I just tell you about it.
And a lot of the stuff you were talking about, you mentioned on the future of where science is going to go and where technology is going to go and how that's going to just explode past even what we can sort of imagine. What's sort of your take on, like, where would you direct students to sort of like be thinking of applying themselves if they want to be involved in this bold new world of technology?
So the great thing about the internet is that you can see what everyone else has done there, but the challenging thing about the internet is that when you're just beginning, it seems like everything has been done already, and
Right.
you're being judged on a global stage, not kind of intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that there are lots of really simple things that you can do that are good contributions, and just because you thought of something and you can't find it doesn't mean that it's a bad idea. And so what I would encourage people who want to get involved to do is find something they're interested in. So pick a topic, and it can be really anything, and try to understand what the context of the work in that topic looks like. And that's actually a lot of what you do in your first couple years of graduate school.
Mm-hmm.
You're not so much taking classes as you are becoming familiar with the state of work around an area. You can access that all at home, and then try and come up with some ideas that people haven't tried before. And you probably don't have a huge experimental apparatus in your attic. If you do, you're really lucky. But if you don't, put them on the internet, blog about it.
Just get it out there. Yeah.
Just get it out there. And if you're talking about technology specifically, just start building things that you and your friends think are fun.
Yeah, awesome.
That's where the best ideas come from.
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions from any of your students?
I've got a question. What interests you most? Like, how did you get interested in science yourself as a student in high school or middle school or whatever you got however you got started?
Sure. So I've always been interested in technology. I've always loved science fiction, video games, movies with lots of explosions. And what I love about science is that science gives us the tools for looking at problems where the answers aren't understood yet. And when I thought about the job I might have in the future, I didn't want to have a job where it was like working in a bank, where everything is well understood and you're just sort of, moving pieces of information around. I really wanted to work on a problem where I could discover something that no human being had known before. And that's how I got interested in science in general and technology as a tool set to get there. Yeah, and it's that kind of curiosity is really what still keeps me motivated. And I see someone else is talking, though. Elizabeth, we can't hear you.
You're good?
You're good? Okay.
Hi, I was just explaining
to
my husband what I was
awesome.
doing on the computer.
You can feel free to just bounce questions. We're huddling here in one of the small classrooms in our SciO team building. So any questions you have for Hillary, just shoot.
For Eric.
Oh, yeah, I guess. All right, so you mentioned, like, building, just getting out and trying to build something. That can be daunting for kids who especially have, home life to worry about and social life to worry about. How can teachers help students facilitate that building process? Can they get them building in classes? Like, how can teachers help?
Oh, absolutely. Teachers, like I was a professor at the college level, which I know is very different than teaching at high school. But still, what I think teachers can do is give students the tools to actually work on the things they're excited about. And one of the mistakes I see students make a lot is that they either pick something that they're interested in that's way too easy, they underestimate their own capabilities, or they pick something wildly ambitious. So what teachers can do is provide that voice of wisdom that says, okay, you want to build a rocket to the moon? Why don't we build a model rocket first and like understand how that works as a step towards your dream of building this rocket to the moon? And teachers are really necessary for that.
Oh, okay. Any last questions for Hillary? We're going to bring the next group of people in, the other teens. So if you have any other questions for Hillary while she's here.
Or you can ask them on Twitter.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
H. Mason, and I'm always happy to chat.
We had a student who had a question, so I'm going to turn my phone towards him.
Cool.
So sorry if this repeats on anything, because
No worries.
We're cool.
All right, I was wondering, what's your main interest in science?
So my main interest today, it's actually evolved a lot. So when I was younger, I was really interested in biology and ecology and how large, like how the world evolved to be the way it is. Now I'm much more interested in studying human behavior through quantitative mathematics. That means actually writing down formulas that predict actions humans are going to take. The scientific name for that is computational social science. And my training is all in computer science, so I had to learn, and I still am learning a lot of the skills I need to work on the problems I'm interested in.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned earlier in your keynote the real-time web and all this stuff, and you want to quickly explain what that is?
Sure. So the real-time web is the part of the web that people pay attention to, and that's the data that we study. And so you can go to a website called rt.ly. You have to log in with a Bitly account, but that is a tool for looking at what people are paying attention to. And my favorite thing to try there is to go look at the food articles people are reading. And you can do food in your city and see whatever food stories people are excited about. And that's always a good way to get find some delicious food options. But it's a good demonstration of
and the wild differences between people from different places. You pointed out, like San Francisco had like artichoke and like stone ground. Yeah. And then
New York's a little more practical.
Exactly. All right.
Cool.
So,
well, thanks everyone.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, we're just going to bring in the next person. I'm Eric. I'm one of the teen co-coordinators for ScienceOnline Teen. And we're waiting on Sam, Nassim, and Hannah, who are here now. Yeah, we're live. Okay, good. All right. Scoot this back. Here, scoot.
Oh, sorry.
God. Alright, so we are 3 of the teams who have helped put this thing together.
I don't know how we're gonna do it so this comes.
Okay, here, I'll turn them more towards. Okay, so this is Hannah, this is Sam.
Hi.
You guys want to introduce yourselves quickly?
Hi.
We have a classroom on their iPhone.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Samantha. I have a blog called Green Science on Skytable, which is part of Nature, and I blog about anything I want to concerning global warming or environmental conditions or current events. And I've been blogging since freshman year.
We have another
And
chair.
There we go.
Hi.
This is Nassim.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Right.
I also, you're talking about the blogs?
Yeah.
I also have a blog with Citable of Nature Education, and my blog's about, for kids my age, to describe many scientific topics in an easy way to get people interested. It's called Our Science.
All right, and Hannah?
I don't have a blog, but I'm a member of the planning committee. I'm really into computer science. That's about it, really.
All right, so let's see. Oh gosh.
Maybe
thing
if
should
you
move
put it
back.
back more.
Yeah. All right, we're good. This is so sketch. Okay. So I guess our main thing is all of us are really just like normal teenagers. Like there's not that much that's really that like, special or that I don't know.
Out of the ordinary.
Exactly. So like all of us have started just getting involved and doing this stuff, and that's sort of the point of this conference is to just get kids to do things online.
Like there's no qualification that you have to have other than being really loving science, basically, and communicating it.
Totally. And like Hillary said before, just before, she said, you know, just go and build something. It doesn't really matter what you want to build as long as you really are passionate about what you want to do. Do any of you guys, any of the students have any questions or thoughts? Or like we can literally talk about anything. Karen has a question.
So how did you guys get to be on the planning committee for ScienceOnline Team?
Right.
Well, 2 years ago, we attended our first ScienceOnline conference, and it was really cool because we made a lot of connections with professional science writers and journalists and just other professionals. And we were 3 students in the whole conference. There weren't any other teenagers, and we wanted to bring this experience to other teens our age. And and so we started the ScienceOnline Teen Conference, specially designed for teens.
Right. Let's see. I got involved 5 years ago. I was in Stacy's art adult coordinator. So we outnumber her vastly. But I was in her freshman biology class, and she had us blogging about whatever topic we wanted to talk about, biology-wise. And she took us to ScienceOnline. Karen's sitting behind the computer, and she's one of the co-founders of that conference, which is our flagship conference. And from there, it really just became this discussion about getting teens involved. And actually, I started playing World of Warcraft and blogging with one of the other guys I played World of Warcraft with. And that was my first blogging experience. Again, just be passionate about whatever you want to talk about. I talked about games and how games can be scientific and affect real-world change in this stuff, and it's led to good things.
And then Miss Baker came to our school, and she brought that same extreme biology blog, the classroom blog that really connected the students to the science community and people interested in scientific topics. And then she brought other students in our class too, to go to the ScienceOnline conferences. And then we've gotten great opportunities out of that. We work with nature education, and that's how we got our own blogs. And basically, I feel that our involvement in ScienceOnline and our passion about blogging and I guess our connection to Ms. Baker, we got involved and we all came up with the idea of ScienceOnline team. That's how we were in it.
Well, I didn't get involved in ScienceOnline until this year, actually, because Miss Baker, Stacy, works at the school and works at my high school, and I had to meet her for something completely unrelated to ScienceOnline. I was starting a club in the middle school about a technology club for younger girls, and she is the coordinator of technology in middle school, so I had to go talk to her and just chat about what I had in mind. And then she brought up the conference, and it just kind of went from there. I really had no intention. I had no idea what ScienceOnline was. I saw the date in the school calendar, I think, the year before, but other than that, really had no idea what it was. It was really coincidental, but really, really lucky at the same time.
And you're just willing to jump in.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is the most important thing. Yeah.
We have a question here from a student. This is Jason Hernandez.
Okay.
I have a question. You guys mentioned that you guys were teenagers, and one of my questions was, you guys as teenagers, what interested you in science? Because many as you know, teenagers want different careers, like music, other stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, what was your interest in science as teenagers?
Okay, I'll go first, I guess.
Sure.
I'm really interested in science, and I guess for me it's because I'm young, I have a curiosity, and science really answers a lot of questions that I have, and it gives ways to predict things and try to figure things out. And I mean, I like all the other subjects, but science just appealed to me in that way because it's very exploratory and experimental. That's what it is.
I guess totally most teenagers don't really have this, and it's even they call science uncool, or it's just nerdy or stupid or whatever. And all the coolest things that are happening right now are because of technology and science and all this stuff. And if you want to be a part of it, you totally can. Just start blogging about it, start writing about it, just get involved any which way. And seriously, if you just jump in, good things will happen. So for me, getting involved with science was, I've always been sort of interested. When I was little, I wanted to be a scientist. Then I was probably doesn't pay that well, probably can't be a real livelihood, probably can't live as a scientist, which was totally false. And really just, it doesn't matter if don't think of it as being interested in science as in your textbooks and your biology class. Think of it as being interested in how the world works and how you can make the world work a little bit better, how you can make an improvement. That's really what science is all about, is how do we understand things so we can improve lives and improve how the world works.
Yeah, I know for me, I mean, I've always been more math science inclined, like ever since I was little. When I was younger, like I remember my favorite things, like I would play with Legos and build stuff, or I would like, oh, I live in New York, so I would be really lucky and be able to go to the planetarium every weekend. Like I was obsessed with astronomy and physics for a really long time, and I still really am into that. But then as I started to get older and like do more math and kind of see which disciplines appealed to me the most, I really got into comp sci, just because it made the most sense to me. And it was like the other ones I always kind of understood what was happening, but it was the first time that any one like class or subject really clicked with me. I just really understood what was happening, and so that's why I'm pursuing it. But it's really true, like don't be intimidated by it. So many people I know think, you know, math's hard, science is hard, so they're not going to do it. You just have to dive in, you know, be positive, hope for the best,
and scientists totally want to talk to like teens and youth and people too. It's like it's not there shouldn't be a disconnect, but there is between these two groups that like they're normal people. Adults are normal people. Like you can
too.
Exactly. Like you can totally reach out, and it's a much less intimidating divide than I think a lot of us teens perceive it as. I mean, the first time we went to ScienceOnline, it was like terrifying.
So intimidating.
Exactly, because we had this idea that like we don't belong here. Like it's too big for us. We're just like kids.
Yeah, and we felt like a lot of the adults were so comfortable with like expressing their ideas, and it just shocked us. And I remember in my first conference, like our coordinator, Ms. Baker, encouraged us so much to mingle, because once you mingle and get to know these like opportunistic people, you get involved in so much and get so much exposure. But I guess that's why we made this conference, so we could discuss the same ideas with people that were our age, and we also made it so we can give them the same experience that we had.
Exactly.
We have another question if you got a second.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if you guys know, but we do a monthly Twitter chat with scientists with my students, and once we talked about cloning recently, and my student had a question for you. This is David. I can't ever say your last name. Yeah, I can't say that.
What do you guys think about cloning? Do you think it's like wrong, or what are your thoughts on it?
Oh,
Cloning.
Ooh, about what? Cloning. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, and that's where it, like, we actually had a session earlier about talking about controversial topics, and they mentioned clothing. They didn't really talk about it, but I know it's definitely controversial because of the ethics behind it. I personally think it's very interesting, but it's hard to make a decision because you don't want to be offensive, and also you don't want to, you know, if you think about it, is cloning people okay? I don't know, maybe you want a best friend. It's just like you.
Right.
I mean, in general, like, we're a clone. But is that okay? I don't know.
I think certainly, like, it's worth researching. I don't think there's a good argument that says like we should not ever try cloning anything ever, because just like Dolly the sheep, that revealed a plenty of like very interesting scientific research, and now we understand aging better. We understand the genetics behind aging better, and certainly some people have even talked about aging as a disease that we can overcome. I don't know, we'll see. But there is always new questions that can come out of these things, especially like the more controversial things. Usually those things lead to some of the more powerful answers. Nuclear energy was born out of a very controversial idea, you know, nuclear weapons. Any other thoughts, questions? We're going to bring another, we're going to keep, oh yeah, sure.
Hi guys. So I'm an adult lurker here, but I'm curious to know if you think that there are scientific issues that are kind of in the adult realm that teenagers don't get to hear about as much, and that you'd like to hear more about.
So more, can you repeat that again? We had a new guy come in.
Hi, Charles. Yeah, so I'm a science magazine editor for teens, and I want to know if there are scientific issues and topics that you think adults talk about, but teenagers don't get to hear about as much.
Well, I was actually talking with a student here today, Grace, and she's actually blogging about the effects that the sequestration cuts will have on the NASA, on NASA research. And she's blogging about this for other teens, which I find absolutely fascinating. I mean, so there are teens who think about this a lot as well, and it's really funny that to me that they are. And I think you can pitch lots of different directions. Well, it gives me hope that you can pitch lots of different directions.
I think a lot of the more, the subjects that aren't covered in school, often teenagers are left out of those conversations. Like astronomy, or certainly what's it called? Like atoms and stuff.
Chemistry?
Smaller.
Molecular biology.
Smaller. Atomic physics, there we go. That stuff, we don't get educated about, and then there's an assumption made that we can't be part of that conversation just because, we didn't learn it in school or whatever. And again, teens can have a voice in whatever subject matter they really want to.
I feel like a lot of the times the topics that I'm generally most confused about are things like the sequester and NASA, current news events that teachers in schools don't really cover as much as they do the core subjects that we have to learn before we're able to understand those things. So simplifying big things that are happening in the science world right now to a level that is easy for everyone to understand, I kind of try to do that on my blog. I don't really cover as many current news topics because I myself am not so expert. I'm not an expert about it, and a lot of the times I feel like I have to go through news articles, and they're hard. I mean, they're not harder for me to understand, but they're harder for me to.
They're not catered to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some of the topics I've never learned before.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna take Charles here now.
It was really nice talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Sure.
Put it in the event.
Here. Hold on, we're doing a quick little technical.
Right, so
just while Karen's messing with stuff, this is Charles Choi.
hello.
He's a reporter. He's been with Scientific American. He's been with Wired. He's been with New York Times. Probably a couple other places.
Yep. I don't think that's it.
Got it?
No, that's not it.
And so his angle is, unlike Hillary, more on the talking about science and rather than actually doing hard science, I think.
Yes, for the most part, yeah. Although I do go out on archaeological and paleontological field trips.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
So if any students have questions about science reporting or science journalism, if that's sort of more the direction you guys want to go, or blogging, certainly.
I have a question. In Nashville with my students here. Who do you write for again? Are you freelance?
Yes, I freelance for Scientific American, the New York Times, Wired, Science, Nature, the Washington Post,
Oh my God.
New Scientist, Popular Science, Discover. It's a long list. It's a long list. Yeah.
That's a pretty impressive list.
Well, you just hunt it down, I mean, it's one of those things where once you start, then you want to find as many different places to write for as possible. It's kind of like a potato chip. You just can't click, have just one.
Only if you're a good writer, though.
So, is there any question that you wanted to ask about science writing?
He writes for New York Times, Scientific American, all the big
Important.
medias.
Yeah, I know, right? Tell my mom that.
When did you realize you wanted to be a writer?
All right. Well, see, so I actually went to college wanting to be a poet/marine biologist, and I got into journalism because the editor of my college paper was really hot, and so I really wanted to get to know her better. So I got into, I joined the college paper, and I just really liked journalism, and then I became managing editor and senior writer at some point, and from there it just took off. And so I actually was in. I started off as a crime reporter, I started off as a crime reporter. Well, with the intention of moving into science reporting. But crime reporting is just a lot of fun. I mean, you run around and the story is obvious and there are interesting characters. And there's a lot of action, and it's very good for teaching you the fundamentals of journalism, because if you're inaccurate, you will get sued for libel, and that's bad. So taught me how to write very quickly and very accurately and fairly colorfully. And those are skills that I've taken with me into science writing, I'd like to think. So there aren't really, and there's no one path into professional writing. I mean, that's a lesson I've learned. I mean, and I have lots of colleagues who, say the same thing. So if you don't, I mean, like if you're looking at other people who are getting like 5 internships at these papers or whatnot, it's just like, why aren't I one of those? I mean, just keep at it. And eventually, I mean, if you love the field enough, I mean, like, you'll get your chance. Fortune favors the prepared mind, as they say.
I guess.
Cool. One of my students has a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you ever go out with that girl? Oh, did you ever go out with that girl?
Did I ever? We kissed once, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, she was going out with some other guy, but then like they broke up, and then like basically on her graduation day we kissed. She bruised my lips. It was a really good kiss. It was a really good kiss. So remember it.
Good job.
Yeah, but I mean, you get into journalism, for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter, why you start doing something. It's where you end up. That's and how much you enjoy it while you're doing it. That's really what matters.
I guess, do you have like a favorite story?
Do I have a favorite story? Well, there are 2 stories I usually like telling. Right. There's a story I discovered about mummies in Siberia. Right, and they were covered in these bronze plates, and their heads were cut off. And in the paper, in the scientific paper about it, they said they cut off the heads of these mummies to protect the living from the magic of the dead. Well, technically, what they meant was to keep the dead from rising from the grave and killing everybody. And this is in a science paper. You don't usually read this in a science paper. So I thought, wow, this is a great story. So I pitched this to the New York Times, and they accepted it, and they said, oh, but we'd want photos of the mummy, which is completely, I mean, it's a reasonable request. So I emailed the scientists in Russia. I told them that I wanted to do a story, and they said, sure, we'd love a story on our work. I said, all right, can you send me pictures of the mummies? And they said, sure. 9 months go by. I don't hear anything. I'm sitting on the story for the New York Times, right? And it's killing me. So I just fly to Russia. To take pictures of the mummies myself.
That's awesome.
I tell the scientists I'm coming. They say they know that I'm coming. They help me get a room. I get there. They've shipped the mummies back to Siberia. So it's like, all right, you knew I was coming. Why did you send the mummies back to Siberia? And then they said, well, all right, but we have, but here's this CD full of photos of the mummies for you. So it's like, all right, if you have this CD full of photos, why didn't you just mail me the CD so I didn't have to fly to Russia? Or since they're on a CD, why don't you just take the photos from the CD and email me those? So that I didn't have to fly to Russia. But it was a good story. I mean, like, because
you got to go to Russia.
I got to go to Russia for a story,
right?
And their English was definitely much better than my Russian, but it wasn't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So being face to face with them, I managed to pin down a lot of things that were necessary for the story, and that ran in the New York Times, and and so yeah, I mean, but yeah, I basically flew to the gateway of Siberia for nothing. That's just kind of how things go sometimes, but it's fun.
That's just your job. That's fine.
It's my job.
All right. So is Bora on his way?
Oh,
just tweeted him. Right.
There's another story when I was facing down gunmen in Guatemala. Yeah.
What?
All right. So what happened was this. All right. This is in Guatemala, and they're burning down large parts of the jungle.
Right.
To set up landing strips for planes on their way to to sell coke. In the United States. Right. And so there are biologists working in this area, and so I was going to go, with them. They fly planes over the fields as they're burning, and to count where these fires are taking place. So I thought, all right, I'm going to fly in the plane as the fires are taking place, and fly around the smoke, and tell the story of these scientists. So like the week before I go, and my plane tickets have been bought and everything, right? The pilot chickens out.
Good.
The pilot chickens out. Oh, no. I'm still writing a story. The story is still assigned. I'm still have my plane tickets there.
You just don't have a way to get there.
I just have no way to get there. So I thought, well, I guess we could just drive there. Okay. Now, do you know what the problem is when you're driving into drug lord-infested territory in the jungle?
Can't imagine.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? All right, so... And so I'm driving around, see, what the drug lords did, there are a lot of landless peasants in Guatemala. I mean, there's a huge civil war there, and a lot of the people got lost their land and whatnot. It was a bad situation. So the drug lords, very nicely, invite these peasants in to basically serve as human shields. And they arm them, and they tell them that the land is theirs, even though it's a wildlife reserve, and basically use them as their bodyguards. So we're driving around, and there are all these people with shotguns and AK-47s just walking around,
Oh my God.
And, basically, that was an interesting story to report.
It's like the movie Hot Fuzz, but...
Yeah. Yeah, but, that story turned out really well. I mean, because, they don't actually hurt... they didn't actually hurt us. I mean, at most they gave us the stink eye, but, these were... the drug lords proper. Mm-hmm. This is drug lord territory, but these are just, farmers, really. Just, heavily armed farmers with really expensive trucks that you don't normally see in your average Latin American peasant. But still, they're just farmers. So, yeah, that was an interesting story, too.
All right. Thank Charles Troy for stopping by. And now we're going to finish up with Karen and Bora.
Hey. Bye.
All right, did you say so? Okay. And I need to get as close as possible.
Closer. Yeah.
I'll try.
All right.
Yeah.
So to finish off, we have Karen and Bora here, two of the co-founders of the Science Online Original Flagship Conference and the Science Online organization, and really the ones who started it all with Mr. Sugar also, who's not here. So really, if you guys have any questions about how this all started, the whole philosophy, if you guys want to start with sort of what was the original philosophy that started the Science Online unconference science communication movement.
It started in 2006 with several...
Quickly, also just each of your backgrounds really quickly.
Backgrounds.
This whiteboard.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of background. Yeah. Born in what used to be Yugoslavia, came to the United States in '91. Went to NC State, into graduate school in biology, and now I'm a Scientific American.
Right. Chief blogger of Scientific American. And
I've done many various things. Taught physics, have done some research with human cadavers and crash tests, and now the executive director for Science Online.
Right. All right. So, and back to what you were saying about Science Online.
Well, in 05, 06, there was an explosion of science blogging. At the same time, there was an explosion of conferences. They were about technology, about blogging, about the web. Areas, blogger cons and podcaster cons and things like that. So we had the idea to make one of those that would be focused on science alone, and not just on tech, but on science communication and various other aspects of any kind of way that you can marry science and the web.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be teaching, it could be journalism, it could be making tools for scientists to use, either in their research or in communicating with each other, publishing their findings.
Right.
And so we met at UNC campus in January '07 for the first Science Online. It was only a one-day event at first, and we thought, to start small, to focus locally, to get local scientists, local bloggers. Triangle area of North Carolina is full of scientists and bloggers,
right.
And as a technology and science hub. But we instantly got people from England and Canada and all over the country. So they made it international right from the get-go.
Right.
And then decided that we have to continue doing this year after year, and it's grown, and it's now grown into an organization. The conference in Raleigh is kind of the big flagship conference once a year. There are many other satellite meetings and meetups and things like that are already starting or about to start. And Science Online Teen, our first topical event. And one can say that it's an ongoing conference online, just using the hashtag on Twitter. I don't think there has been a day in the last couple of years that the hashtag was not used by somebody.
Right.
So it's an ongoing online conference, and then we meet in the real.
I think a lot of that is really like my first time going to Science Online. It was very I was terrified, but it feels like a family. It feels like everyone sort of says hi to each other. Everyone's like hugging each other and embracing each other, and it's not at all that image of scientists meeting around a table talking about how to build the next hadron collider or whatever. It's very much just normal people talking about what they love to do and collaborating about it. And how was that process of fostering that familial feel? Is that a word, familial?
Yeah. Well, that was something that we wanted from the very beginning, and it's evolved over time. The whole principle of the unconference,
right?
That the best conversations are happening in hallways. What's going on there? Oops. That the best conversations are happening in the hallways and in between sessions at a hotel, so we wanted to take those conversations into the rooms, and the whole idea that everybody at a conference has some experiences with doing this in some way, and so that the collective knowledge and wisdom and experience of all the people in the room is always going to be greater than whoever is the person up front. And so we kind of reversed it. We were not the first ones. There were conferences before that, bar camps of various kinds, and we adopted it to our needs to discuss science in a way where the person in front is moderating a discussion in which the whole room is participating.
Yeah,
and for that, in order to make sure that everybody feels free to speak out, we made sure that the hierarchies from the real world were as eliminated as possible. So it doesn't matter.
Egalitarian. There we go.
As egalitarian as we could make it.
Right. Okay, so we have to actually go now. If you have any last questions, Karen had to run off to do stuff.
I'm teaching.
Oh.
I'm doing a session with this computer.
Oh, okay. So
computer is needed. Okay.
All right. Thank you for signing on and all that stuff. And this will be posted onto the Science Online YouTube, hopefully. Yeah.
All right.
Have a nice day. Thanks.
Everybody wave. Thanks.
Awesome.
Oh, to